All right, let's start the show. This is going to be a good one. All right, I'm going to talk about something that is taboo. Nobody really wants to talk about it. And the media right now is going on about how this politician might be taking performance-enhancing drugs or something because they're all old people. They're all really old. I'm going to talk about young people taking drugs, specifically in engineering school. I'm talking mostly about Adderall, but there are a lot of other drugs too, I'm sure. The one that I have experience with personally for a very brief period of time, but also secondhand through a lot of my friends, is Adderall. Adderall is used a lot in colleges. It's used especially a lot in engineering colleges. Why might that be? Well, you have a lot of work to do. College is extremely difficult. Well, engineering school is. Let me put it this way. Engineering school makes the other humanities majors look like kindergarten. I'm sorry, but it just basically looks like kindergarten. It's kind of, I think the sociology stuff is a lot of busy work, a lot of recall and regurgitate and all this other crap. Whereas engineering, it's like you're learning a new skill. It's like you're learning how to write a new language about once every semester, maybe more often. Right? As an engineer, you're going to school, you're learning about electricity, all right? You're learning how to program, you're learning about mechanical parts, you're learning about chemistry, you're learning about physics, you're learning about a whole lot of different other subjects, and your focus is shifting constantly. You might only take 4 classes, but all of those 4 classes are hardcore classes, all right? You have 168 hours in a week? Let me do the math here. 168, so 24 hours a day times 7 days a week, 168. You got 168 hours in a week. Guess what? If you work the minimum of 40 hours, that's 25% of your time. You're not going to work 40 hours. You're going to work more than that, almost certainly. If you're going to be an engineer, you're going to work a lot more than 40 hours. You're going to work probably 80 hours, maybe 60 hours, okay? If it's exam time, there have been times where I wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, don't take a shower, I grab a bowl of cereal or something, just whatever I have around, honestly, because I haven't had a chance to go grocery shopping, and I sort of munch on it while I'm studying and doing work, all right? Because the homework takes 5 hours to do because it's really hard, and professors aren't really there to teach you. I mean, they do teach, right? I think they do a fair job. But when the subjects get hard enough and you have to internalize it by relearning it yourself. It's one thing to be told about something. That's like a clue. That's gets you in the direction if you're told how something works. It's you actually doing it that makes it internalize inside of you to make it work. So you're reverse engineering and redoing all of this really tough engineering stuff. Again, electricity, mechanical engineering, materials, chemistry, physics, all this stuff. You're going to be learning about photons in one class and then about stress tensors in another class. You're going to be learning about tempers of metals in one class, and then you're going to go over and you're going to learn about how to write proper reports, scientific papers in another class. So you're constantly switching subjects. You're constantly having to go to subjects that are extremely difficult. Yeah, a lot of people take Adderall, all right? A lot of people take Adderall. It's a fact, okay? What does Adderall do? Adderall is, if I'm going to be a little bit derogatory and just say it straight out, which, by the way, is the way all of us engineers like to talk. We just say it straight out. Adderall is a controlled substance. It is pretty much an amphetamine. Amphetamines I think they were invented by the Nazis to keep the Blitz going. You take a pill and you just keep going, all right? You just wouldn't stop working. I took Adderall once. I realized it wasn't for me. I preferred the hard way. Not that Adderall doesn't make it easier, it just changes your focus. So what it did to me, when I took it for a little bit, because getting an ADHD or ADD diagnosis is about as easy as going to the drugstore and asking, checking yes. I would like to sign up for your newsletter, right? It pretty much just turned me into a work zombie, so I was able to sit down with my work in front of me, and without any distractions, just do it. I was just doing it. Just do it. Okay, math problem done. Math problem done. Math problem done. I felt like I was in a cloud. I felt like I was floating through life right there because I took it for 2 days. I was 2 days was all it took for me to realize it's not for me. The focus was really good, but I didn't feel any creativity. I didn't have those other voices and other ideas just piercing my skull constantly and distracting me. Some people like that. I I prefer having lots of distractions internally and then learning how to manage it, because those distractions can also be really, really useful. And I prefer to be a creative person rather than, knuckle down and just do a thing that's already been taught to me, right? I don't know if you're going to discover, I guess you could discover plenty of new things. That's just my personal experience with it. A lot of people have a lot of success with it. But for a lot of my colleagues, they would turn to Adderall, they'd turn to smoking, because nicotine is a stimulant. Nicotine is also really good at sort of revitalizing you. People don't talk about the medical benefits of nicotine, but there's a reason why a lot of writers and a lot of creative people that work long hours, they smoke. There's a reason for that, because taking a smoke break actually apparently has an effect on their mind that gets them back to work and gets them refreshed. I don't smoke myself. Oh, I smoke cigars and I smoke pipes, but that's more like to relax. It's not really to it's not like a working you don't go for a pipe break at work. I mean, some people do, I guess, but it's not usually if you want to go and do a bunch of work, it's cigarettes for some reason, right? I don't see anybody like smoking cigars in their lunch break. Cigars are more for like that's a lot of nicotine, but you're also not supposed to inhale it, so you tend to just get a little bit sleepy and just relaxed. So like I'll have a cigar and a glass of scotch or something, right? Anyways, the amount of pressure that you have in engineering is incredible, right? Let me describe it this way. Imagine you were taking the SAT test for 4 to 8 hours a day, right? You're just constantly concentrating and working. 4 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week at least, probably more, for about 30 weeks a year. That's the 2 semesters, 15 weeks per semester, roughly, with the optional summer semester. So you might not even take any break. There might be like a week break between that. So you might have Thanksgiving, Christmas, before summer. Like, by the way, engineers hardly ever. I mean, sometimes we take spring break off, but honestly, it didn't happen a lot for me. You get between the spring and summer semester, and then between the summer and fall semester. So there was probably 2 or 3 years where I would have like 4 weeks off a year, which is a lot, right? For a working person, 4 weeks off of vacation is a lot for a working person, but a working person isn't usually doing this level of like mental strain a day with incredibly high pressure, or you'll have to take an exam, and it's tough. And usually when you're working, you're doing the same thing for years and years and getting really good at it. If I was taking the same physics class every year after year, I could just knock that out. But if I'm taking stuff that's constantly changing rapidly and intensively, yeah, it's going to be tough. A lot of people take Adderall. Depression is a huge problem, I think, in the engineering population. I don't think they realize like the mental health strain that level of work puts on you. And I absolutely deplore professors and administration staff that say, oh, this level of workload is good. This is the way it was when I was in school. Saying things should be hard because that's the way it was is exactly what people say when they're doing hazing. All right. So if you're going to use the same kind of reasoning that promotes hazing to justify your curriculum, I'm not in for it. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that I could have cut out of my engineering education and would have been just as well off. I would have probably moved the upper level calculus stuff over to a master's degree. Honestly, other things I would have cut out. I mean, you could always cut out humanities, but I think those are actually somewhat useful. I would get rid of the requirement for humanities. Other things I would probably try to get rid of. I think just going too broad. So my degree was weird. It was engineering physics. So we just touched on every facet of engineering. I was doing like electronics, circuit board design, also doing quantum physics, also doing material science, also doing chemistry, just so many alsos, trying to make you well-rounded. It's more like well stressed out. So, I mean, and the fact is that a degree is a job qualification now. Okay, so it changes the game. We're no longer here because we want to enrich ourselves, necessarily. We are here because we want to get a job. So our focus, our interest, and what we're willing to put in and take out changes completely. It changes the dynamic of education completely when you turn it into a job skill requirement, okay? It removes, all of that old school of, I'm going to learn Greek and Latin, I'm going to study the classics, I'm going to, I'm interested in chemistry, I'm going to write tons of papers on it. when you make it a job requirement, you're no longer getting these intellectual elites that love to learn for the sake of learning and love philosophy because they want to discover the truth of life and the universe. What you're getting is people who just want to make a living. All right, and it's kind of criminal to me to hold those two groups to the same standard. It's insane. So in comes Adderall, in comes other drugs. People make it work. It's a lot of really tough education for what I think is not necessarily super useful or super pertinent, right? I mean, it's a filter. Education today is a filter. It's not a prepper, it's a filter. A filter makes sure that everyone who goes through it is smart enough to get back out of it, right? The problem with filters is when you filter something out, you have waste. Those are people who washed out. Those are people who now have a ton of debt and can't get out of, and they have no return. They got nothing out of it, right? The people who filtered through it, it doesn't transform them. Filters don't enhance things. They just allow things to pass through. So you have these other things that have just passed through with no benefit to them necessarily. They might have been able to just take 2, 3, 4 years off and go study at the library and would have gotten a very similar effect, especially today with the YouTube thing that I'm participating in. If somebody wanted to learn how to make a circuit board, they could just watch me. They don't need to take a class on it. They don't need to pay $500 per credit hour to learn how to make a circuit board. There's tons of online documentation. There's tons of people making stuff. You don't need any of that at all. And you could do it at your own speed and at your own leisure. You could do it as needed. Oh man, my boss needs me to make a circuit board. I better learn how to do that. Or, I want this new job, but they want you to know how to make circuits and do, oscilloscope verifications and circuit verifications on it, right? Then you'd learn it. You'd have a reason to learn it. You'd have a time which you'd set a pace to learn it. Sometimes the pressure's really hard, but usually when the pressure's really on, you only have 1 or 2 or 3 things to focus on, not 4 or 5 or 6 classes at a time. I think the way that we do engineering education has become antiquated, and it's necessitated pretty rampant. I would say rampant. The thing is, schools don't want to collect data on this because it would make them look bad. That's my thoughts on it. They don't want to collect data on drug usage. They don't want to collect data on how many students have been given an ADHD or ADD diagnosis that has resulted in an Adderall prescription, right? School's not asking you to turn out your pockets. Let's see those bottles. It's not going to happen because that would force them to sit here and make a reflection, have a reflection upon themselves of man, is this really necessary? It's a perverted thing. We're expecting everyone to be Thomas Jefferson. That's just not going to happen. I just want to work a farm. All right? I'm not going to be Thomas freaking Jefferson. I'm not going to be Ben Franklin necessarily, right? Some people were. Some people are. They should be able to choose that education. The fact that you have to pay through the nose for an education is insane to me as well. It's the thing that you have to pay a ton of money for that you also have to work extremely hard for. Why don't you just have the work hard for, right? Or what are we paying for? These professors aren't paid that much. The professors that want to teach are the usual teaching professors, what? $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 tops. They're not 6-figure people usually. Maybe the senior staff is if they're the head and they have some administrative position, but I don't think college has to be nearly this expensive. If you at this point, let's say you're paying lowballing it $20,000 per semester, or sorry, per year, $20,000 per year paying a professor. I mean, that's you and 2 other students. You could pay their annual salary, right? Throw in another student, and it's a really good professor. 4 students. So 4 students could follow this professor around for a year and learn everything from them, and the salary of the teacher wouldn't change. That's insane. Throw in throw in a whole classroom of 15 to 30 students, and how much have you paid for, right? I could do the math on that. If it's 3 students per professor, right? That's 10 professors that you have if you have a group of 30. That's almost your entire department. That's a pretty small department, but it's a department. You could have an entire electrical engineering professorial staff. Guaranteed tuition, guaranteed salary. All of it's paid for. And $20,000 a year is low. That is really low, actually, these days. I defy you to find a really good, reputable college that would have that low a tuition. So what are you paying for? You're paying for a bunch of administrators that have horses on their ranch. You're paying for a stupid gym, which it's both nicer and also crappier than just a local Gold's Gym or not Gold's Gym. What's the Planet Fitness. I like Planet Fitness. It's like $10 a month, and you get all the equipment you want. You're not going to be like doing heavy weightlifting there, but it's fitness for the every person, right? You got a pool. Who cares? Who cares? I'm trying to get an engineering degree, not sit by the pool. What else are you paying for? Tracts of land, lots of classrooms. Why do you need so many classrooms? If I only have 10 teachers, that's 10 classrooms, right? Just buy 5 double wide trailers and put a divider in there, right? I mean, how many? Especially if the classes are super small. I mean, get a couple of trailers and have dividers in there. Or better yet, can I just stay home and get my lecture from home, and then I go into your office when I have a question? How about that? I mean, how long would it take for this level of tuition? Throw 10 more students in there, and now you've got like a several acre ranch to go do all this stuff in. Room and board all paid for, by the way. Everyone gets their own log cabin. What kind of university? That would be an awesome university. Everyone gets their own log cabin. All the teachers have their cabin/office. We have a common area. We're going to go do chemistry lab over in the chemistry cabin. I want to go to chemistry cabin, which sounds actually a little bit like it's... It sounds like it's a contributor to the drug problem. I'm going to go down to chemistry cabin. Me and the boys. We're going to whip something up. I feel like engineering has gotten so egalitarian nowadays that you don't need it. Like it would look like a bunch of cabins for engineering. It looked like a bunch of cabins surrounding a small airplane hangar, like a real small one, like a private hangar that has a machine shop in it. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, it looks like the hydraulic press channels set up. You don't need this stuff. You don't need it. You don't need a giant lecture hall. I don't need walnut interiors and embellishments. I don't even need a library. I don't need the library. I would just go to the library for a quiet place to sit. That's it. I could do that in my room. All right. If I want books, they can all be online. I can have an online library. All this stuff is antiquated. We got a bunch of boomers telling a bunch of young people what today's industry wants and how how we're going to learn today. And they don't want to face the fact that they're very quickly being outdone, right? It's just not necessary. It's absolutely not necessary. Oh, why do I have to live in the dorm for my freshman year? Because you think I'm such a huge knucklehead? You're just putting off the knucklehead BS until I finally hit drinking age, by the way, right? If I'm going to go out and get into trouble, I'm going to do it in my sophomore year instead. It's not a big deal. I don't know. Maybe it's overwhelming for some people, but if you're learning from home for like your freshman year, that actually might be a good alternative. Like, why can't you just do online stuff for your freshman year? I don't know. I mean, the speech class, you have to be in person. Anyways, I digress. This has been the Alex Manassa. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, kind of, but mostly I'm on Twitter. And I also have a website. All that's in the description. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more rants from me. I like getting spicy. I'm probably going to get spicier as time goes by and I get better at this. And hit the like button if you like the subject of this video. What do you guys think about this drug usage thing? What do you think of the expectations we have of young people? Am I off base? Am I losing my mind? Am I talking crap? Let me know in the comments, okay? I hope you guys have a great day, all right? Bye.